we could be alone between city lights. We don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Livestream. It is Monday night. It's 8 p.m. And we're going to sit around. We're going to chat about FPV, and I'm going to answer your questions. Or maybe I'll just talk about whatever I want. Welcome to the stream, you guys. Oh, man. We got a lot to talk about today. I have just been following up, reading up, educating myself about the latest results from Terrence Howard's Linchpin competition. You remember that? And I don't want to spoil anything because we are going to talk about it on the news tomorrow. Me and Blunty are going to talk about it. It's really a news item. These Q&A live streams, mostly I just answer your questions here in the chat. But I just was I knew that Kevin Plaisir, the EmuFlight dev, had been declared the winner. What I didn't know, and I just learned this literally 5 minutes before the stream began, was that Terry said that he was so impressed with the work that everybody had done that he was going to give the full $25,000 first prize to all of the finalists instead of giving Kevin $25,000 and the other guys $15,000. And in fact, I think, yeah, so amazing. I'm astounded and impressed. So I am looking forward to hearing more about that. In fact, I'm going to be doing an interview with Kevin Plaisir talking about the Linchpin project. Sometime, well, his schedule is a little weird right now, but I will be talking to him about that. And it is so, I'm just gonna use my position as the streamer here. Hi, welcome to the stream. Yeah, I'll be answering your questions, don't worry. I'm just going to monologue here for 1 second. I heard about this project. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was weird. I thought it was a great opportunity for somebody in the FPV community to potentially win a lot of money. And a whole lot of people said they said it was dumb, and they said it was abusive. They said it was taking advantage of these people. They said it was nowhere near enough money. They said it was impossible. And here we are. Damn near 6 months later, so it did take a while. And not one, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, including Mr. I Am Pete. Mr. I Am Pete was the first guy to demonstrate a solution, but was not actually one of the finalists. Although I am told that Terry actually, there was supposed to be 1 winner and I think 3 finalists. And I'm told that Terry also is going to give the prize to Mr. I Am Pete, although I haven't verified that, even though Mr. I Am Pete technically wasn't one of the finalists, again, just because he did such great work. These people completed it. They seem really thrilled to go forward and to work with Terry on this, and presumably they're going to get a big chunk of money in their pocket, and I couldn't be happier, and I feel I feel really vindicated. There were times when I thought, is this going to be impossible? Is it going to turn out to be a ripoff? Is anybody going to be interested? Am I going to look like a chump for backing this and for promoting this? And I feel like the fact that it's come out the way it has now, I feel at least, I mean, somewhere out there's someone who's going, yeah, you look like a chump. You look like an idiot. How dare you? But the fact that it's come out the way it is, I'm really gratified. So I just want to get that off my chest. Do you know where to buy the Redux Air 32-bit ESC, Jack Hagerman? There's nowhere to buy it right now, Jack. As far as I know, there are none out there. The guy, I'm blanking on his name, the guy who makes them is working on getting components for another batch, but he can't get FETs. So he can't get FETs, so he's trying to get FETs. In addition, one other thing I wanted to talk about before we get started with the stream, look what came in the mail today. Look at this thing. Catalyst Machine Works wants me to try this out. This is a 9-inch version of the Catalyst Machine Works America, made specifically for chasing vehicles, but also just for ripping balls. I can't wait to try this out. I literally unboxed it a half hour before the stream started. I just thought I would have it here on the desk and share it with everybody because I'm super psyched to fly it. 9 inches, baby. Anyway, if you want to know more about what's this contest that I was talking about, here I'll put a link in the video in the chat. To anybody who was skeptical, I feel like your skepticism was 100% valid, but I feel like at this point Terry has proved, I feel like it's proved it. So pretty cool. All right. Let's see here. Here's what we got going on. Welcome to the live stream. If it is your first live stream, thank you for being here. Here's what we're going to do. This is my main screen right here. And I will be taking your questions here in the chat. 10 inch is best for chasing. Well, this is a 9-inch. I don't know why he went with 9 instead of 10, but I do feel like 5 inches. Like I asked Big Data Pimp, says 10 inches best for chasing. Hang on, I'll get back to that. Let me finish this. I'll be taking your questions here in the chat. Your questions are going to go by way too quickly for me to keep up with all of them. So if you want to make sure I get your question, hit the $sign right down here at the bottom of the chat, right down there. Hit that $sign, leave a super chat. That's one way. Or you could hang out over here with my patrons in the Discord server. This is my Discord server. These people over here are my patrons. They subscribe to me on Patreon. There's a link down in the video description. You can subscribe to me for as little as $2 a month, or more if you feel like I've earned it. And I get to hang out with these lovely people. What the? Yeah, I get to hang out with these beautiful people over here. And I'll be paying attention to them as well. But oh, look at Boot DSC getting a little plug in right there on the stream. I have no idea what a cyberdeck is, but there's a free plug for him. All right. 10-inch. Best for chasing. What's best for chasing vehicles? I've thought about this because I've had some opportunities to chase vehicles before, and especially if the vehicles are going real freaking fast, a 5-inch will suck its battery down pretty quickly. If they're going 70 miles an hour, you know, that's getting close to full throttle for a typical 5-inch, at least a freestyle quad, carrying a GoPro. And it sucks the battery down. You're just constantly changing the battery. And I thought, if you really are going to be serious about chasing vehicles, you're going to want something a little bigger. But a beast class is obviously way overkill. Like, a beast class doesn't have the agility that you need. It certainly has endurance. You can fly that thing for 12, 15 minutes, even if you're ripping hard. And I thought maybe something in the 9 or 10-inch range is going to be just about right. And of course, Catalyst Machine Works also thinks that, and that's why they've developed this product. I will say, though, when I was at Rampage last weekend, I asked Mr. Steele, because he chases cars, and I said to him, you chase cars with your 5 inches? Do you find that the endurance is not enough? And he was like, nah, it's fine. Just swap batteries. So, obviously, you can chase vehicles with a 5-inch, but I'm trying to think of the right thing to do, the right way to demonstrate the capabilities of this thing. What size battery? I am not sure about that. I believe this one is a 6S. It's in a box in the other room because he sent me a battery as well. Let me see if I can. Now Neil is building a 12S one, but the one he sent me is 6S. It's got to be. It doesn't say what size battery it is though. I like the idea that this one runs on 6S and maybe doesn't. I mean, anytime you're running 12S, things get a little hinky. Bad for Life says a 4,200 milliamp hour 6S on 10-inch is what he runs. 5,200 6S. I was going to guess around 4,000 milliamp hours. So, Kyle Rousel in the Discord asks, do you think DJI or Caddx will release an FPV air unit with OcuSync 3.0 in the future to work with the V2 goggles, or more fundamentally, to work with the V2 controller, which is OcuSync 3.0? We know that when the V2 goggles came out, Ferdinand Wolf, DJI's creative director, said in an interview that they intended to make the V2 controller compatible with air units and FPV things. Certainly one way to do that, and this was my assumption when he said that, although that's based on very little. But my assumption was that they would release a new version of the air unit of the Vista that supported OcuSync 3.0, and then it would be compatible with the controller. It's very, very difficult to guess what DJI is going to do in the future, especially with a product that in some sense they have moved away from. I mean, in some sense, they've moved on from the FPV things to the FPV drone, to the Air 2S. It's possible that that product is more or less abandoned. Caddx is going to sort of keep it on life support for a while, but no major development will happen. I feel like statistically that's the most likely outcome. But anything's possible. So, let's see here. Sir Lancelot wants to know, is the arm in the Livestream intro video accurate to a specific frame? I don't know. Let's take a look. Let me take a look. Let's go back to the off air and we'll turn that music off and we'll turn that off. What frame is that? I don't know. I'd have to go ask the artist what frame they based that off of. Is it a glide, an FPV cycle glide, or freestyle? Oh, it's a freestyle. Yes, it's a freestyle. Eirik Toft, thank you. You got it. He used it based on the JB Xylo budget build kit. Yep, it's a freestyle because that's like my build. Bingo. Mikhail Anderson says, DJI will say yes to anything if they think it will increase sales, then they conveniently forget they ever said anything. I feel like there's some truth to that. Got some super chats coming in already. Jim Sanders, thanks for a $10 super chat. New Radio Master owner here. How difficult is ExpressLRS? Well, I've got a video about ExpressLRS. You can watch my ExpressLRS video and you can see what it takes to get it set up. Should I just save the hassle and get Crossfire? I do like the looks of the tiny ExpressLRS RX. On that note, bottom line thoughts on 900 versus 2.4. Oh boy, Jim Sanders, this is a great question with a lot of meat to it. If you look at ExpressLRS and you ask, should I just save the hassle and get Crossfire? Then probably you should. Because, and there's ExpressLRS people out there who are going, Ree! Right? If you look at ExpressLRS and you go, oh, that looks like a real hassle. Is it worth it? Because there's people who look at ExpressLRS and they go, yeah, okay, let's do it. They're excited. They're excited to let's figure out how to do it. And if that's not you, then maybe that's not you. Maybe that's not for you. There's a lot of steps to getting ExpressLRS working. Now, many of those steps go away if you buy the Happy Model receiver and module, because then you don't have to flash FreeSky or whatever. But there's still, you're going to end up needing to flash it. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn about Crossfire too. But there's no doubt that Crossfire is more of a polished solution that is easier to use. It's still got a learning curve, but it's not quite as much of a learning curve as ExpressLRS, in my humble opinion. So, if you look at ExpressLRS and you go, yeah, okay, let's do this. Good. Let's do it. It's great. It's well worth the trouble. It's really cool. But if you look at ExpressLRS and go, that looks like a bunch of freaking hassle. And there are people who reach out to me and they go, I'm trying to get my quadcopter flying and it's a third thing that's gone wrong and I'm so angry. I just want to throw it out a window. And I'm like, wow, only 3 things have gone wrong and you're already ready to throw it out a window? I have bad news for you. There's like 7 more things that are going to go wrong. So if you are just flying into a rage this early in the process, maybe not. Maybe you need to figure it's not going to stop happening. I don't want to say maybe this isn't the hobby for you, because I always am like, it's okay, we can figure this out. And I just am like, let's just put one foot in front of the other and try and, get to the point where you can fly the quad. And I'm proud to say that there are people who have been emailing me for 2 years. And the first emails from them were like, this hobby is impossible. How does anyone do this? And we just took it one step at a time, and now they just fly quads, right? But there's other people who are they're like, forget it. So if you're already kind of discouraged, then maybe ExpressLRS, maybe it isn't for you. Now, 900 megahertz versus 2.4 gigahertz. All of the ExpressLRS people say that 2.4 gigahertz is where you want to be. And in fact, Trappy also, when talking about FLRC and Tracer versus LoRa and Crossfire, Trappy also says FLRC and 2.4 gigahertz is where the future is going to be at. I don't know why. Obviously, if you're doing like ultra long distance, then you might want 900 megahertz LoRa, but for typical use, Trappy thinks FLRC and 2.4 gig is where you're going to be at. And Ghost, obviously, is in 2.4 gig. So a whole lot of people out there think that 2.4 gigahertz is where you want to be. Why? I like the smaller antennas. I like the lack of interference with other pilots, the ability to have many pilots in the air. There are obvious advantages of 2.4 gigahertz, but they're so definitive. They're so definitive. But most people say that 2.4 gigs is where you want to be. I would say that, because then the thing that people say is, should I get Crossfire, Tracer, or ExpressLRS? And I'm like, what about Ghost? Why tell me. You tell me in the chat. You tell me in the chat. UAV Tech says it's because that's what they're selling this month. UAV Tech, I don't think that's true for the ExpressLRS guys. I mean, you're joking a little bit, but that's obviously not true for the ExpressLRS guys because they're not selling anything. Hold on. I got to get that thing off my desk because it's just in the way. I'm going to put it back there. They're not selling anything. And they think, so 2.4 gigahertz can go 500 hertz. It's the ultimate low latency. And that may be a thing that they're excited about. But everybody says Crossfire, Tracer, ExpressLRS, and I'm like, why is Ghost not in there? I really think that Ghost is exciting. Because Ghost is adjustable, you can have 250 hertz FLRC, you can have 50 hertz LoRa, and you can just sort of do whatever you want. I don't know why Ghost is in stock anywhere. I just bought 3 Ghost hybrids from Pyrodrone. I bought 2 Ghost hybrids from Get FPV like 3 weeks ago, and they got lost in the mail. I didn't really notice because I order a lot of shit. And then I got an email from a guy, and he said, hey, I just got a box from Get FPV with 2 Ghost hybrids in it, and it's got your name on it, but it's got my address. And I was like, oh. So we contacted customer support, and they were like, I don't know what happened. But I was like, okay. So then I placed an order from Pyrodrone. They were in stock. The Ghost hybrids were in stock anyway. Duck My Squee says, I don't like Ghost because Ghost tortures the LoRa spec. Crossfire already took it to an extreme with 150 hertz. LoRa was never designed for high rate links. That's an interesting statement, Duck My Squee, and I'm obviously not qualified to comment on the technical details of LoRa. I just don't know. But like, if you look at Mark Spatz's testing, he shows that these protocols are, they're low latency, they're not dropping packets. Like, what do you mean it tortures the spec? I mean, it pushes the signal to noise ratio up to the limit. It just sounds like they're getting the most performance. What's the actual downside of what they're doing? But and Ghost, if you don't like Ghost using LoRa, Ghost has an FLRC mode that you can use. Ghost has a 50 hertz mode if you prefer. So, I'm just always surprised that Ghost isn't in the list. I think there's a lot. It has a lot going for it. But that's just me. Okay, let's get a couple more. The super chats are just rolling in. Let's get a couple more out of the way. Lucas Celeste, thanks for $2. Hi, JB, thanks for being great. Love that super chat. Chris Atkin, thank you for 20 pounds. Sent you a message. I'm the organizer of PropFest 2022. I would love a chat. PropFest 2022. Well, for 20 quid, the least I can do is shout you out on the stream. PropFest 2022. I saw this going around. This is basically a freestyle flight festival similar to Rampage in the EU. And Saturday the 13th, Sunday the 14th, August 2022, with camping available from Friday to Sunday at Burton Constable Hall, East Yorkshire. Where is the actual, like, there was a post about, oh, here's the link, PropFest 2022. There was some photos of the site that were really impressive. So there's a Facebook group here. I'll put a link to the Facebook group. It's still in planning. That's the Facebook group. There were photos, though, of the site. I can't find them. Oh, well. The big question, of course, was, hey, am I going to go? over a year out, of course, there's no way for me to predict. And on top of that, traveling is, I really dislike traveling most of the time. It takes a lot to get me to get on a plane and go anywhere, never mind go overseas. So I would say that statistically, the chances of me being there are low. Nothing personal. Nothing personal. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. If I could drive there, then there would be, well, like, but still, what other events have I gone to other than Rampage? The main way to get me to go somewhere is for like usually what happens is Drew says, hey, we've got a camper and we're going to I.O. Do you want us to swing by Knoxville and pick you up? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. But other than that, I did drive to Rampage, Bubby. Abraham Gonzalez, thanks for a $5 super chat. Chrysostomos Stivaktas, thank you for 5, I think, Australian dollars and 5 more. I have this FetTech KISS F7 flight controller. I want to know if I could connect it to a T-Motor F55 amp ESC. You can, but it'll be difficult to flash a BLHeli ESC with a KISS flight controller because KISS doesn't do pass-through. So typically what people will do is they'll have a Betaflight flight controller. They'll unplug the KISS flight controller. They'll plug the Betaflight flight controller into the ESC. Then they'll flash the ESC and do whatever they need to do, and then they'll plug it back in again. You don't have another flight controller, though, so you're not going to have any. You can get it working, but what if you need to reverse one of the motors or update the firmware? You won't be able to do that. So... Sync Happens says he flies a private jet and he can take me to the UK for only $3,500 an hour. If I could fly in a private jet, I'd be more likely to go. Kenneth Davis, thank you for a $5 super chat. Does the DJI FPV altimeter show height from liftoff or height from ground? I'm sure that it's height from liftoff location. Because in order to show height above ground, you would need like a topo map of the whole area, and it doesn't have that. So nobody is showing AGL. They're all showing the height above. They're either showing above sea level or they're showing above takeoff location, which is usually what it is. Chrysostomos, thanks for another $5 with the same question. Thank you very much for 15 total Australian dollars. Robert Davis, thanks for $5. Instead of zombie type killing or mowing down 100 emails, can you wake up late at night and live stream test flight 9-inch? Show me the notification bell. I don't think I'll be flying that at night. That's for sure. Aerospace Inc., thank you for $10. Since Rampage, the video on all my quads is bad. What are the failure modes of a TBS Unify? That's the common denominator. Well, I mean, obviously just going to Rampage, like the nuclear radiation destroyed them. No, it's not like that. There isn't any of that. I mean, I would definitely, if you crash them, they could be damaged. If you have bad signal on multiple quads, it could be your module. Your antenna on your module could be messed up. You certainly should look into that. And you should double check that like you're not in pit mode or that you've turned them up from 25 milliwatts. Those are some things to think about. If you crash, but what are the it's the chances that you damage them all are, unless you just crash the shit out of all your quads, it's pretty slim. So like I'm gonna bet that either your module is damaged in some way, or you have you changed them all to 25 milliwatts and then you forgot to change them back. Abraham Gonzalez, thanks for a $5 super chat and a shout out to all the guys in the Central Texas FPV Discord group. Mitoda, thanks for $20 super chat. Socris, thank you for a €5 super chat. I'm new to the hobby and I built a DIY drone. It wobbles so much in angle mode I can only fly it in acro. Did you change any of the PIDs in angle mode? Did you like raise the level strength? That would cause that. If you're on default PIDs, I would wonder, I'd need to know more about the drone. Like, is it a great big 9-inch, 10-inch that the PIDs aren't right for, try playing with the level strength parameter in the PID tuning tab, Socras, and see if that makes it better. Almods RC, thanks for 50 Norwegian kroner. I hit a tree and as the drone fell, I gave it some thrust. Yeah, it makes sense. Ended up with a fried motor. Damn. And also, my TBS Unify Pro VTX. Why did it kill my VTX? Well, I mean, you hit the tree. Anything could have happened at that point. If the motor fried, then there could have been a voltage spike, and that could have killed the VTX. I mean, it's a little bit of a reach, but that's what I would say. We got this video here from Kevin G, posted by Prince's FPV Drones in the Discord. This is Kevin G's Catalyst America 9-inch. This is the same quad that Catalyst sent me. Let's take a look at it flying. I've only seen Neil Whiteley fly it. Let's see this guy fly it. This is the 9-inch Catalyst Machine Works America. Got 500 amp PDB, 80 amp ESCs. KISS FC? For real? Mine has KISS. I'm surprised to hear that. But anyway, let's have a look here. How can I? Oh, there we go. Oh, I love the sound of those big motors. I should shut up and let the quad do the talking. Interesting. It always amazes me how undramatic these big quads are when you see them fly. Like, the motors sound really good, but looking at the FPV footage, it kind of just looks like you're flying a quad. It's only when you actually start trying to push duration and so forth and speed that you start to find out what's really up. Very interesting. Yeah, 8S, that's correct, Bad for Life. 8S on that one. Mine is 6S apparently. Let's see here. Let's see what else we got. Sync Happens 86 in the Discord says, here's your next radio. Yeah, no. No. I will not be spending $1,400 on any radio, and certainly not a Spectrum radio. OpenTX, baby. That's my life. OpenTX. Lane Penner, I do have a Discord server. It's open to patrons. It's open to my patrons only, though. Try to keep it a little exclusive, you know. It's just one of the only things I give away. I give everything away for free. The Discord, I thought. Here's the truth. Here's how my Discord ended up being for patrons only. My whole career has been based around giving knowledge away for free. I have never put my videos behind a paywall. I've never done a course, like a paid course. Every time I think about, like, should I do a paid course, I'm like, you know what? I just want to put these videos on my YouTube channel. Anybody can see them. And then at some point I started Patreon, and people were like, hey, we like what you're doing. We want to support you. So then they do. But I started the Discord server, and I thought, oh my God, I already spend so much time answering messages. If I start a Discord server, it's going to be just another unending stream of messages that I can't keep up with. And I made it patrons only because I was like, okay, look, it's going to be a little bit exclusive, but you're going to have to pay to get in just to keep the numbers down. But you can always email me and I'll get back to you, or message me on Facebook and I'll get back to you. Frankly, the real pull of the Discord server is the other people on the Discord server, not me. Because like I said, I answer my emails more often than I answer messages on the Discord server. Like DMs I answer, but like just hanging out in the channel and participating in conversation, I do that maybe once a day. I just stop in and say hi. So if you actually just go to a channel on the Discord server and ask a question, you're way more likely to be answered by one of the other people there than you are by me. God bless them. So. Let's see here. Let's take some more questions. Aztec Joe FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Sir Lancelot 178 in the Discord asks, if a 900 megahertz and a 2.4 gigahertz control link were both on an output power where they would have similar range, would they also go through a similar number of concrete walls? That's a very interesting question. So let's start with a different question. If a 900 megahertz and a 2.4 gigahertz transmitter were on the same output power, the 900 megahertz would go further because it's lower frequency. And at the same output power, lower frequencies usually go further, more or less. So now let's assume that we adjust their output power so that they have the same equivalent range, right? Will they then go through the same number of concrete walls? I submit that the answer to that question is yes. They will go through the same number of walls. Because for the most part, most materials are not specifically absorptive of one frequency more than another. There are exceptions. For example, 2.4 gigahertz is right around the resonance frequency of water molecules. And that's why 2.4 gigahertz is what's used in microwave ovens, because it interacts with the water molecule in some way that is often misunderstood. And so I'm not going to try to explain it and get it wrong. So, large bodies of water are more absorptive of 2.4 gigahertz than of 900 megahertz. So then we look at these concrete walls. So if we're talking about, you want to go through an aquarium, like literally a tank of water, then the 900 megahertz is going to penetrate much better than the 2.4 gig, because 2.4 gig is specifically right around that resonant frequency of 2.4 gigahertz. But if we're talking about concrete walls, then the question becomes how much moisture is in the concrete. So concrete starts out having a certain amount of moisture in it, and then as it cures, the moisture leaves it. And I've done wireless surveys before I did our YouTube and FPV. I did a lot of wireless surveys, and I would go into, you think that a concrete wall is going to have a ton of absorption, right? Attenuation. But it turns out that as the moisture leaves the concrete, it becomes much, much less attenuating of RF signals. Especially, well, we were specifically looking at 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz Wi-Fi. So I would go into these buildings, and maybe it was a brand new building, maybe it's 10 years old, and the concrete can still be curing, 40, 50 years later. So I was told by someone who thought he knew what he was talking about. If you're an expert in concrete and you think that's BS, then I can't really argue with you. But the concrete takes a while to cure, to fully cure. And so if we were in a relatively new building, we might see 15 or 20 dB of attenuation through a concrete wall. I don't mean just like a little 8-inch cinder block wall. I mean like a 12 or 15-inch wall, like a big supporting wall, or the wall of a warehouse. But I went into we were at this one site. It was an old military barracks. It was a military base, and they had these barracks buildings that had been built, I don't know, in the 70s, in the 80s. They were 40, 50 years old, whatever. And the attenuation through the walls was like practically non-existent, which just blew my freaking mind. Because I'm so used to looking at a concrete building and going, oh my God, we're going to need so many access points to cover this building. And the coverage through the walls was ridiculous. And I was told the reason is that the moisture cures out of the concrete. And after, 30, 40, 50 years, there's no moisture left. So to go back to the question, whether 900, in general, if you have two signals that will go a certain distance in open air, those signals will have the same penetration through obstacles. In general, Range and penetration are just two facets of the same thing. But there are some exceptions, like 2.4 gigahertz being resonant with the resonant frequency of water, that can mean that you'll get more penetration through a certain type of material with one than the other. Great question. Love it. Kevin Carbajal says, my rates are set up correctly and endpoints, but I can't get it set to exactly 2000. In Betaflight, I can only get 1999 or 2001. The truth is, it doesn't freaking matter. It just doesn't matter. Just pick one. Yeah, just pick one. It doesn't really matter. The difference between them is so minuscule, you'll never notice the difference. People in the chat are talking about trees. So trees have leaves on them, and leaves contain moisture, water. Trees can be fairly attenuating, depending on, I mean, if they're deciduous trees and it's the winter, then there's no water in the branches and are just the signals go right through them. If you are flying through trees and you need penetration through those leaves, 900 megahertz is going to be slightly better than 2.4 gig. But as the ExpressLRS guys will point out, Wesley Vardy went 33 kilometers on ExpressLRS at 2.4 gig. So the fact that 900 megahertz might have more penetration, there's a lot of people who would argue that even 2.4 gigahertz can easily outrun your video link. So who freaking cares? They would say you're overthinking it. Bannister Post says, isn't most of the material blocking RF in concrete the rebar? That would depend on the spacing of the rebar. So it turns out that if you have, how am I gonna put this? If you have an RF signal that's interacting with a sheet of material, like if you have a solid sheet of metal, it's going to have a certain effect on the RF signal. But you can take and cut a grid in that metal, and if the spacing of the grid is the right proportion relative to the wavelength of the signal, it'll basically act like a solid piece of metal. And by the same token, if the spacing of the grid is wider than like the wavelength of the signal, then the signal will more or less pass straight through it without being affected too much. So my gut feeling is that the spacing, like if you think about the wavelength of a 2.4 gigahertz signal, I think it's 12 centimeters if my memory is correct. And so a half wavelength would be 6 centimeters and so on. If you think about the spacing of the rebar grid in like a concrete floor, then potentially I think it's going to be bigger than that. But I don't know. It's not a given that just because there's metal rebar in the concrete wall, that the metal rebar is going to have a big effect on the signal that passes through it. Yeah, that's why, Tim Gutentag, good point. That's what's in the door of the microwave. There's a metal mesh in your microwave door that stops the microwave energy from getting out, but you can still see through it. Abraham Gonzalez says, since exam dates are pushed out for about 2 months because of COVID, can I get in trouble if I fly without a ham license? Abraham, I have never heard of any FPV pilot getting in trouble for flying without a ham license, except I heard of one case where a person was blasting the same frequency as a ham repeater in their area. I can't really verify that this story is true. Like I'm surprised to hear that FPV signals and ham repeaters share the same frequency band. But I guess it's all Part 97. It's all the ham band, so I guess so. So basically, this guy was rebroadcasting his FPV feed onto this ham repeater and messing up the ability of the hams to use it. And they were super... just don't piss off the hams and you'll be fine. If you fly for a couple months without a license using a typical 5.8 gig VTX, you're not going to really run into any problems. No one's going to care. Is the practical answer. Howie in the chat says, Banggood keeps changing my shipping date. Is this normal? No, it means they don't have the product and you're not going to get it. It means that they don't have the product. They let you place the order and now they're hoping to sort of keep you on the hook. You should try to get your money back. They're just going to keep pushing it out. Maybe someday they'll get it and ship it, but unless it's a product that you just absolutely can't get anywhere else, probably I would try to get my money back. You're probably going to have to really pull teeth to get your money back. Howie, I answered your question, and now I see that you were spamming the shit out of the chat. Stop that. Stop that. Just stop it. That's so annoying. I'm actually kind of sorry I answered your question now that I see how much you were spamming the chat. There's no reason for that. Don't do it. Okay. Soundwave says, did Betaflight VTX tables change format between Betaflight 4.0 and 4.2? Nope. I don't think so. When Betaflight says I'm on channel 7, I'm actually transmitting on channel 6. Soundwave, you should, I mean, I'd like to see your VTX table. One thought is that you may not have factory bands put in. You know, when you enter a frequency band in the VTX table, you can set it to be a factory band or not. And if it's not a factory band, you may have the wrong frequency in there. Yeah, let's take a look at your VTX table, Soundwave. Paste it here in the Discord server, and I'll take a look. Let's see here. Coelho FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Any suggestions on post-video processors for GoPro files? Post-video processors, you mean stabilization, Coelho? What do you mean, Coelho? Stabilization or what? Monkey FPV says, I don't know any FPV pilots who have a ham license for running high power. Stop. First of all, assuming you're in the USA, Monkey, you need a ham license no matter what output power you're using. People think if you're at 25 milliwatts or below, you don't need a ham license. That is not true, at least not in the USA. So, you need a ham license regardless of your output power because the devices are not Part 15 certified, generally. Fishball FPV wants to know, does a tricopter always require a servo at the rear motor? Yes. A tricopter always requires a servo at the rear motor. Otherwise, you're not going to have yaw control. Dominic Clifton, good to see you, sir. Nice to know you're with us. Hope you're feeling well. Dominic had a little bit of a health problem a little while back, and now he's supposed to be on bed rest, which he definitely is, right, Dominic? Bannister Post says, I got my Rock A here. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's the same as a ham license. You have to re-up your ham license like every, I think it's 10 years here in the USA. Kyle K says, show them that really crappy FCC certified Fat Shark VTX. That doesn't exist anymore, that's for sure. Nobody makes that anymore. Jimmy Dean wants to know if I can recommend a DJI bind and fly. I mean, you could certainly buy one from Rotor Riot. They'll be happy to build you one. If you want not like a bespoke build, The iFlight Nazgul V2, very good. The Diatone Roma F5 V2, very good. Gepar C Mark IV, very good. Those are some that are certainly worth a look. Evolution 219, thanks for £5. Do you know when Get FPV will have your build kit again? I can't find a decent kit anywhere. Evolution, the problem is that, I mean, everything is slow to manufacture. Everything is held up these days. Like everything, not just FPV stuff. So what happens is they get an order of, let's say they get an order of 50 or 100 kits from the factory, however many they can get. And they have 120 back orders. So they fill all the back orders. And now it still doesn't show like it was ever in stock. So you could certainly say, well, look, if you know you have 150 back orders, why don't you just order 300? And the problem is sourcing components and manufacturing bandwidth is just limited. So they're making them as fast as they can, and they're shipping them as fast as they can, and it still is never showing that it's in stock. So in short, if you want the Xylo budget build kit, the thing you have to do is put a back order in and then just wait. And I wish that weren't so, but it just is. It's not that it's not getting shipped. Like you look and you say it's been out of stock for I don't know, whatever, 3 months, however long it's been. It has, people have been receiving it and building it. They just put back orders in and you just have to wait. So Soundwave is showing his VTX table. Ooh, sounds saucy. Let's take a look. Here's the VTX table. And I'm really happy that you're showing me the CLI dump and not the JSON file. So much easier to read the CLI dump. So thank you for that. TBS Unify Nano Pro 32. One thing I see is that you're using factory bands. And I'm pretty sure that if you're using factory bands, then the frequencies that are here don't matter. That it just says race band channel 1, and the VTX knows the channel. I don't see any way that this could be incorrect, though. Yeah, so Soundwave, if you don't use a factory band, you can put any frequency in here that you want, and the VTX will go to those frequencies, which you can use to make custom frequencies, groups if you want. I don't see any way that this could cause it to transmit on the wrong channel, though. What I would wonder is, if you look at the LED on the Unify, does it indicate that you're on 7 or 6? What does the Unify think you're on? That's what I would wonder. Sunset Park FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Please ask Howie if he's heard anything from Banggood regarding his order. Let's not start that up again. Zorian Passmore says, how does the OSD on DJI Digital work? I see pilots flying with no OSD or just a black subtitle track. How do you do that? Zorian Passmore, the pilot sees the OSD while they're flying, but the DVR doesn't record the OSD. So they're flying with an OSD, it's just not being recorded. That's the answer. Coelho, I don't know if I missed you replying to me. Let's see if I can find that. Post processors. Excuse me. So if you're looking for stabilization, Coelho, then obviously Real Steady Go is the obvious first choice. For editing, I mean, You could use Premiere, you can use Resolve, but that's not like a let's just process it. That's like you have to know how to do color correction. Some people will use a LUT. You want to talk about LUTs? I saw somebody ask, hey, does anybody know any good LUTs for GoPro? I really feel like that's a question that kind of misses the point. So a LUT is a way of coloring footage, if you will. The most famous LUTs in FPV are the Johnny FPV LUTs. And basically, you import your footage. In fact, hang on. Oh, wait a second. Let me just show you. One second. I can just show you. So you there's no project. Hang on. New project. Browse. That's fine. Untitled is fine. One moment. Let's bring some footage in. Some flying footage, ideally. That's talking. Where's the flying, Joshua? We gonna fly? There's some flying. So you bring the footage in, and what we can do is we can go to the coloring toolbar and pick the footage, and you can pick a creative LUT. And this is just to demonstrate the concept. But we've got all these looks here, and if I pick one, let's pick one while I'm flying. If I pick one of these looks, it's going to change how the thing looks. Okay, going to give it a different look. They're all, and here's the thing, they're all going to look like crap right now. Okay, and this is part of the point that I'm trying to make. Like, look at this LUT. This looks like garbage. It looks terrible. The shadows are all crushed. The highlights are all it's just awful. See if we can find a better looking LUT. Gold tobacco. That looks better. Still doesn't look great. Here, no LUT, LUT. That's better. So you can pick this LUT and it's going to do stuff to your colors. Fine. Oh, that looks kind of good, actually. Oh, that one looks kind of good. Oh, that might be an improvement. Hang on. I think that's a little bit of an improvement, honestly. I kind of like that. Like, the colors look... Yeah, that's not bad. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing about LUTs. As you saw, some of the LUTs I tried looked like crap. They looked like absolute garbage. And then occasionally I found a LUT that looked good, but it was a total crapshoot. Because a LUT is basically a transformation of your footage. It's like, think of a LUT as a mathematical formula that transforms your footage in a certain way. But if you don't know what the input of the LUT is, then the output is, who knows what it's going to be. So, like, there are professional LUTs that say, you need to set your camera up this way. You need to have this color profile, this exposure, and then, assuming your footage looks a certain way, then this LUT is going to make it look this other way. But when you look at something like the Johnny FPV LUTs, what are you going to do? What's the input to these LUTs? It's whatever you crapped out of your GoPro. Does Johnny say how to set up your GoPro to get the right results? Maybe. It shows that you can use LUTs, but it doesn't show how to actually get the right input. So it's a bit of a crapshoot. I think LUTs are a bit of a crapshoot because the input to the LUT is not normalized. Thank you, Dominic Clifton. Now, if what you want from LUTs is, you could use a LUT as a starting point, and you could kind of tweak it a little bit. But everybody's like, "Ooh, where do I get some good LUTs?" I'm like, I don't know. It's just, chances are it's going to look like crap. He has a specific GoPro LUT pack. Oh, yeah. Johnny FPV LUTs GoPro edition. That's good. How do you set your GoPro up? Do you use flat color profile? How do you set it up? That's what you would need to know. Anyway. Anyway. LUTs, I mean, I've used LUTs before on some of my content, but it's just like a total crapshoot. I just go through them and I'm like, oh, that one looks okay. I kind of like the look of that one. So. Ghost Branch, you're totally right. Ghost Branch FPV says, and Ghost Branch is an expert at Photoshop and photo editing. Ghost Branch says coloring is a two-step process. The first step in coloring is color correction, to move the colors in the video towards a standard. You want to see something? Who knows what this is? Can't. Oh, are you kidding me? Who knows what this is? Anybody recognize this? This is a standard color chart, and based on these highly precise colors, a video editor could color correct your footage to be consistent and accurate between cameras. So you got a GoPro, you got a Sony, they're all spitting out slightly different color. You put that in each one and then you color correct them. Then once they're color corrected to a known standard, then you can apply a creative LUT that gives them a certain look. But if you didn't color correct them beforehand, the LUT's not going to produce consistent results. So that's my opinion about LUTs. Not that you asked, so you sort of asked. If you think of LUTs as just a kind of a creative palette that you could just screw around with, that's fine. But don't assume that if you use the Johnny FPV LUTs, your footage will just like look like Johnny's. It won't. Mo asks, how much was that piece of paper? That piece of cardboard was $150. Because the colors are extremely carefully made, I assume. Anyway. Do LUTs make me fly better? Asked Brandon RC. No, sir. No, sir. See, I wish that instead of LUTs, here's what I wish. Let me show you this. I wish that they did this. So check this out. Excuse me. Let's see. Let me go. I need... phooey. Do I have a... Yes. Okay, check this out. So this is me at my desk. Hang on. New sequence from clip. This is me at my desk. This is the footage that comes out of the camera. And over here in my presets, there's a preset... JB Bench Lights On, April 9th. And this is what gets uploaded to YouTube. Now, this uses a filter called Colorista. And this Colorista preset was created by the guy who, his name's Fabio Pansera. He edits my footage. Actually, that's not correct. This is a mistake in it. Hang on. Where's exposure? This preset has a mistake in it that I always have to fix. I mean, I did it. He didn't do it. The exposure should be 0.4. That's what goes up to YouTube. So what I wish like the Johnny LUTs would do would be to give you an effect preset. Because if they, and I don't even know if you can do this, if they gave you an effect preset like this instead of a LUT, then you could be like, okay, I like this. This is, but here, I want to tweak this a little bit. I want to mess with that. I don't know, right? you could like mess with it and tweak it. But the problem is that LUTs, you can't tweak them. If you don't like what you got, screw you. You're done. So, alrighty, we're not going to talk about LUTs anymore. That's all. That's all. This is a topic I've wanted to make a video about this for a while, and I just have been like, who would care? So, we'll put it on a... Yeah, Monkey FPV, put it on a blank layer above the tracks. You can, you could fade the LUT in and out, but as far as like, if it's like pushing the highlights towards gold, then you can't like change the threshold of what counts as a highlight or whatever. It's tricky. Anyway. All right. Joseph Tahari, thanks for a $5 super chat. Just wanted to say thanks for everything you do, and the interview at Rampage was amazing. Thank you, Joseph. Good, I assume, yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. Angelo Guagenti, thank you for $15. Since inventory is low or not available for buying pre-built, what do you recommend for a 5-inch build? Motors, something strong and smooth. What's in stock? Like Emax Eco, very good budget motor, good quality, like not like exceptional in any way, but very good price and very good value. Yeah. Ghost Branch FPV says you can apply a LUT, then still use whatever coloring tools you want to tweak the result, and then export the final result as a LUT again to have a one-click solution for said footage in the future. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. Zing 2 is another good choice. Very good motor. The iFlight Zing motor, and they're one of the bigger motor manufacturers. They're in stock most places. I mean, you probably wouldn't go wrong with like a T-Motor F40, but they're pretty expensive. Newbie Drone Smooth 2306.5 motor pack Jumpstart FPV. If Newbie Drone, when Newbie Drone does, no, that was the Newbie Drone Flow. When they do their 8 for $100, that's a really great value. How much is the Newbie Drone Smooth 2306 motor pack? Yeah. Yeah. Eric Toft says the Flow motors are now $120 instead of $100, and they're out of stock. Yep, so sad. I mean, everything's going to get more expensive, though. Duck My Squee FPV says, Edge TX would let Tango 2 run Ghost and ExpressLRS. How likely do you think TBS is to migrate from their Freedom TX fork to Edge TX? I mean, Duck My Squee, Freedom TX was always supposed to get merged back into OpenTX. Support for the Tango 2 was supposed to be coming in OpenTX 2.4, just like everything else. So my understanding is that the official plan has always been that Freedom TX will go away once official support for OpenTX includes the Tango, and that TBS doesn't want to be maintaining this fork. So assuming that that's all still true, I would expect that when Edge TX comes out with their release, whatever the equivalent of OpenTX 2.4 was going to be, Edge TX 1.0, I guess. I would hope that the Tango 2 will be supported, and the Nirvana, and all the other stuff we've been waiting for, or at least some of it. And I would hope that it would. What do we got here? Yeah. Coelho FPV, thanks for another $5 super chat. Mick Suluk Kjeldsen, thank you for a 20 Danish kroner. Thanks for answering my mail about lithium-ion field charging. Absolutely. Evolution 219, thanks for £5. Says, as a console modder, I'm no stranger to the silicon shortage. It just never hit me it would be affecting drones so badly. I just ordered. It's affecting everything. It's not just the chip shortage, but also the bandwidth of the manufacturing facilities. So, you know, Lumineer has contracts with some factory in China to make their Xylo flight controller, their Xylo ESC, their Xylo VTX. Somebody's making all those. If I had to guess, I would guess it was Airbot, just because Airbot makes freaking everything for everybody. In this, I mean, they seem to OEM more than they make their own stuff. So you got this factory, and they can only make so much stuff, and so, you know, it's not and that manufacturing capacity has gone down since the beginning of the year, or the beginning of 2020. Motor price increasing seems disingenuous to me. I'm having a hard time imagining plausible ways they would be appreciably more expensive, Squishy7 says. Squishy, we talked about that a little bit when Emacs, there was a leaked Emacs price sheet maybe it was about a month ago. And the price of basically all Emacs products went up approximately 20%. Some a little less, some a little more. And that included motors. And people said, why? And one of the things because motors aren't part of the chip shortage, there's two possibilities here. One is that the shortage of components is not just the chip shortage, but it is also a shortage of manufacturing capability. And so the ability to find people and facilities to manufacture these things is driving the price up. Again, that seems a little suspicious to me, because like the same factory that's making motors is not making flight controllers. So it doesn't seem like there's much overlap there. But there may be perhaps there's a labor shortage. I don't know. The other thing that was suggested was that they are trying to cover the increased cost of flight controllers by raising the price of motors. So rather than make the flight controllers 30% more expensive and leave the motors the same, they make everything 20% more expensive. And their margin on the motors goes up, but it helps cover they're not quite making as much on the flight controllers. That was an argument someone made. I don't know if that's true. Yeah. Anyway. Dominic Clifton says there's a materials price increase on some things in China. Yeah, I mean, we know that there's shortages of, like here in the USA, and I think it's probably not just in the USA, but lumber prices have doubled or tripled since the beginning of the pandemic. Why is that? Well, that's not a topic we're going to go into on this live stream. All building materials, way more expensive. There's shortages of other things. So it's certainly possible that there's just a shortage of, like, let's say there's a shortage of the copper wire that's needed to wind motors. And so the price of that is going up. There's a lot going on. That's the bottom line. Ghost Branch FPV. What's this? Ghost Branch FPV. What's this photo that you're showing me? Tell me where you got that photo before I show it on the live stream. Is that your photo? Is that a render? Where did you get this? Where did you get the CAD file to make this render? I guess I've showed this on the stream before. I guess it must be okay. I'm going to show it. I can't believe this is a render and not a photo. That's my frame, right? Ghost Branch? That's my frame. How did you... I mean, it sure looks like my frame. That's the frame that's coming from... Is that mine? Is that the Apex? Hold on. No, that's it. I'm sorry. That's the Apex. It looks a lot like my frame. Where's my QAVS? I was like, why have you got a picture of my frame? No, I see. It's different. That's my bad. Hang on. Where did it go? Where did it go? It looked so good it blew my mind for a minute. I've been looking at renders of my frame for a while, for a little bit today, and just kind of lost my mind there. That's beautiful though, dude. That's beautiful. That's a crazy render. All right, let's move on. Yeah, I want to show, I mean, I've showed my frame on the stream before. There was a reason why I thought you might be showing me a render of my frame or a photo of my frame today. I wasn't sure where you would have gotten it. I'm not going to say what that reason is, but I thought you were trying to show me a render of my frame. It's a crazy render. It's really good. Carbon fiber shader. All right, let's move on. Caddx FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. I broke the lens on my Caddx Turtle V2 and I couldn't find the same lens. Can you recommend me a lens for that camera? The Runcam RC18, I think. Well, Caddx Turtle? No, I can't. I don't know a lens that will work for the Caddx Turtle. I mean, I'm sure it's out there, but I don't know when that'll work. Can we just buy one? Can we just buy a replacement lens? What's the right lens for the Caddx Turtle? There we go. Turbo Eye. Is this it? Yeah, bingo. There it is. I'm going to guess that this is the replacement lens. Yeah, people are saying the turbo lens is nice. Caddx FPV, this is the lens you should consider using. It's a beautiful freaking render, Ghost Branch. Jeez. I wish that was my frame. That's a gorgeous render. I want you to render my frame that way. Draw me like you do one of your French girls. Okay? I'm going to send you the SVG. Yeah, that's a gorgeous render, dude. I'm really impressed. He says he bought an Apex. He put the parts on his scanner, traced the outlines, exported the curves to Illustrator. Yikes. Like, this is a lot of freaking work, dude. I can't believe this is a render. I mean, the fact that there's no tooling marks on the carbon is the giveaway that it's a render. This is gorgeous. It's amazing. I'm really impressed. It's a line from Dominic Clifton. It's a line from Titanic. Rose asks Jack to draw her like nude, like one of her French girls. Anyway, it's only like one of the most popular movies ever, right? That's a safe reference, right? All right, moving on. Greetings from Aberdeen, Pacific Northwest, John Jones Drones. Greetings, John. Dark Bungle, thank you for $5 Australian. Total noob building the Tyro 129. I got the TX16S radio, but I need a compatible receiver. Is the RXSR viable? Yes, totally. The Jumper R1 is another one that you could consider. License to drive. Maybe not a good time to make references to Mrs. Ciotti. Just saying. Let's let that one slide. Hey, Ciotti, go get you some of them French girls. Do it. Any French girls out there who are interested in dating a micro pilot? Maybe that's not what you should open with. Hey, baby, I fly micro drones. Are you interested in anything 3 inches or less? Sir Lancelot says, I've seen FPV cameras that are both SharkBite and analog. I can't think of a good reason why that should exist. Yep, I agree. That's pretty weird and doesn't need to exist. The hunt is on. Yeah, anybody out there who's an FPV groupie who is like, man, I would sure love to score me one of them FPV YouTubers. And, you know, they were like, yeah, Bardwell, he's married, he's got kids, he's off the table. Well, I'm gonna send you over to Ciati's Tinder. I'm just joking because there are no FPV groupies. Anyway. Uh-oh. Sorry, Ciati. Didn't mean to ouch you. Get it out of your system now. He says, keep this discussion off of my stream. All right, get ready to mute people, Ciati. Do FPV groupies exist? Aerobrat. I have met people who seemed flustered that they were meeting me. Now, I would think that that's a little more like a YouTuber thing than a FPV thing. But, I mean, I don't know if they were groupies. Obviously, groupies has a specific meaning. But I've met people who were flustered to be meeting me. Which is in the sort of, you know, the same side of the Venn diagram as groupies. Mr. Steele probably has groupies. All right, moving on. Huascar Hernandez says, I'm thinking of switching from FreeSky to Ghost or Crossfire. What's your pick? Right now I'm flying Ghost a lot. I have Ghost, I have Tracer, I have Crossfire. I have ExpressLRS. I'm trying it all out. Right now I'm having a lot of fun with Ghost. I really like that Ghost seems to offer the best of almost all worlds. ExpressLRS has lower latency and better range under some conditions, but it's a little harder to set up and a little harder to use, whereas Ghost is a little more convenient. You really can't go wrong, to be honest with you. So consider your options, but I don't think you're going to go wrong with any of them. Evil FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Thoughts on a new pilot starting with 6S? Yeah, 6S a little more expensive, but not that much. A lot of people starting out just go straight to 6S these days. 4S is still, if you look at the JB beginner kit, it's about 2/3, 1/3. 4S versus 6S, which I'm surprised it's not like closer to 50-50. So a lot of beginners still buying 4S, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you decide you want to go 6S, there's nothing wrong with that. Mars FPV, thanks for $5 Australian. What are your thoughts on using SharkBite with Fat Shark HD3 goggles? Is it worth it? What's the resolution of the HD3? I have to remind myself. What's the resolution of the HD3? Burp. Specifications and manual. Oh my God. Can I just have the resolution? I don't need a freaking essay. 800 by 600. So you're not going to be able to display the full resolution of the SharkBite signal, but many people would argue that the SharkBite signal, well, no. So the SharkBite signal is nominally 720p. The effective resolution, I think many people would argue, is lower than 720p. And so you think, well, I've got 800 by 600. But actually, you're not going to have 800 by 600. You're going to have a slice. You're going to have a 16:9 slice in the middle, assuming that the HD3 can do scaling. I'm not even sure it can do. It has HDMI input. Yeah, the HDMI input is 800 by 480. So you're going to be taking a 720p signal and downscaling it to 800 by 480. You're going to be losing roughly half your resolution. I don't think that's great. I mean, if you have the goggles and you want to use them with SharkBite, you certainly can. But the SharkBite signal kind of needs as much help as it can get to look its best. And I don't feel like you would be doing that with those goggles. Is there a power efficiency advantage on 6S? Says TBX 1024. I'm not convinced that there is like a literal, grams per watt of efficiency advantage on 6S, especially because most people who fly 6S are using a higher kV motor, and their RPM at the prop is higher than if they were running 4S. Typical 4S motor is 2400 kV. The equivalent RPM would be gotten with a 6S motor running 1600 kV. But most people run 1750, 1800, 1900 kV on 6S. So I don't think you're getting more efficiency, but I think you do get a little better response out of the prop. Now I'm thinking of Ryan Harrell saying, no, you don't. He would know. He has all the bench test results. I think you do get a little better handling out of the quad on 6S. And I think that especially the perception of voltage sag is less. As you get to the end of the pack, you feel less reduction in performance, I think, until you just fall off a cliff and then you kill your battery. So some people would say that's not a plus. Is Quadversity worthwhile or more of a gimmick? Asks 702 Fly and Ride. Thank you for a $2 super chat. Quadversity is useful if you have a reason to need 4 antennas. So if you have Quadversity in your Eachine or your SkyZone goggles, and you just take 4 Omni antennas and you stick them on there, you're not really doing a lot for yourself, because all those Omni antennas basically have the same coverage pattern. So you just by random luck, maybe one of them will be a little stronger than the other, but you haven't really helped yourself out much. The big way to use Quadversity, in my opinion, would be to have one Omni antenna and then one patch antenna, maybe with a 120-degree cone, and then one high gain antenna with a 30-degree cone facing over here and there, you see, wherever you're going to be flying. So Quadversity gives you the option of adding antennas to extend your coverage area. But most of it's are you really going to do that? Is that how you're going to do it? Especially because as you go to higher gain antennas, it becomes much more sensitive to the orientation of your head. So I think for many people, there's not a super compelling reason to use Quadversity, but there are definitely reasons why you might choose to do it. Now, Caddx FPV makes an argument that with micros, there's no advantage to 6S and it blows up ESCs constantly. Yeah, so when you say, should I start with 6S as a beginner, I assume you're talking about a 5-inch quad. On 5-inch quads, with a good quality ESC, the odds of blowing it up are only slightly greater on 6S than on 4S. Note I said only slightly. They are greater. A 6S, you take a given ESC and you put 6S on it, the voltage spikes are going to be higher and it's going to be more likely to fry. So by running that ESC on 4S, you're giving yourself just a little bit of headroom and you're less likely to fry it. And this is an argument why a beginner might choose 4S. As you go down to 4-inch, 3-inch, and below, the electronics become much less durable. And the odds of frying something on 6S go way, way, way up. The odds of frying something on 4S go way, way up. I'm with you, Ciati. I don't think there's any reason. I don't think there's a compelling reason to run 6S on, let's say definitely 3 inches and below, and maybe 4 inches. Somebody was asking me about his Cinewhoop. He was like, I'm building a Cinewhoop. I want to run it on 6S. And I was like, dude, don't. Just forget it. There's no reason. You can. There's no reason. What are you going to get out of 6S on those? Do you need that torque on those little motors? You just don't. You just don't need it. That's the argument I made. Dominic Clifton says, add a TVS diode to get rid of those spikes. I mean, that can certainly help. I'm guessing a lot of those smaller boards don't have TVS diodes for size reasons. Blew up 3 ESCs on my 6S Acrobat, says Obese Quads. Exactly. You're building an Acrobat, you're building a 3-inch Cinewhoop. I don't think there's any reason to go with 6S. Now, if you say, yeah, but Tommy DeBahia flies 6S. I'm like, okay, well, I'll shut up and listen. And maybe he's going to tell me there's something to it. But just because he does it doesn't necessarily mean you should do it. Yeah, Nurk uses a 6S Cinewhoop. Ask him why. That's the question. I should ask him. Okay. If I build a 6S quad, could I just use a 4S battery? Asks a new FPV. Yeah, absolutely. So I've flown 4S on a 1900 kV 5-inch freestyle rig. Flew fine. If you think about it, let's do the math. Let's do the math. So we've got 1900 kV divided by 0.666. That's an equivalent of 2850 kV on a 4S battery. 2850, let's say, that's pretty high. That's pretty high, honestly. I'd say, well, let's go the other direction. 1600 kV on 6S is the equivalent of 2400 kV on 4S. 1600 out of 1900 is 84%. So until you get to 84% of the throttle, you're not going to notice the difference between 1600 and 1900 kV. So what I'm getting at is, if you take a 1900 kV quad that's designed to run on 6S and you run it on 4S, it's only when you go to full throttle and then you would have gone further that you're going to notice the difference. It's only on the full throttle punches that you're going to notice the difference. You're going to notice that you're hovering higher in the throttle, but you can still sort of fling the quad around right up to the point where you're at full throttle and then you don't have anything else because you're running on 4S. What's 1900 times 2/3? That's the equivalent of it. That's not right. Yeah. It's the equivalent of a 1300 kV on 4S. That's pretty freaking low. Anyway, my point is that you totally can fly a 6S quad on 4S. You will just get less power, and you'll notice. If you're running something like a Cinewhoop, where you need to be relatively high in the throttle pretty much all the time, you're definitely going to notice. But if you're flying a powerful 5-inch quad, going down, losing that top third of the power still leaves you with a flyable quad. Paul McDonald, thank you for a $5 super chat. On my current Cine build, I have a 4S 850. Within 45 seconds of takeoff, I get cell voltage down to 3.7, 3.6. Is the load probably too much? I mean, yeah, you might need a larger battery, or you might need to lighten it up. Or you might need to just run it down to like 3.7 to 3.6. You still got a little while to fly down to 3.3, 3.4. I think your battery, your quad is either too heavy or your battery's not up to it. Paul McDonald, what's your all-up weight? It's a good question. Angelo Guaglienti, thank you for another $15. I'm looking to use the Zing 2306 1700 kV on a 5-inch build. What would this feel like? I mean, that's a pretty I don't know. What would it feel like? It would feel, that's a pretty standard 5-inch freestyle motor. I don't know what would it feel like? I don't know how to answer that question. Let's see here. Correct. Squishy 7. Take 2700 kV on a 4S, put a 79% throttle scale on it, and that's what flying 1900 kV on a 4S would feel like. You got it. You're only losing the top 20% of the throttle. That's exactly right, Squishy. Thank you. When you fly a 1900 kV motor on 4S instead of 6S. Patrick Dubois, thank you for a $20 super chat. Thank you for all your videos and help. I picked up a new Tiny Hawk Freestyle 2. I would like to mod it a bit. Besides the XT30 upgrade, anything else you'd suggest upgrading? Be careful doing that XT30 upgrade, Patrick. There are some quads out there that when you switch them from a PH connector to an XT30, they fry the flight controller because the lower resistance plug lets more voltage spikes through. I'm not for sure whether the Tiny Hawk is one of them, but be careful. Make sure other people are doing that mod and not frying their flight controllers. The next thing I would upgrade would probably be the video transmitter. I would get a TBS Unify Pro 32 Nano or an Immersion RC Tramp Nano and put it on there. And you just get much better range. I would probably get there's the Unify Pro 32 Race Nano, which only goes up to like 50 milliwatts. And then there's the Unify Pro 32 Nano, which goes up to like 400 milliwatts. That's the one I would do. And it'll get you much better range. And then finally, you could put a better receiver on it. Tinker Tweak says, I don't recommend upgrading the VTX on the Tiny Hawk 2. The VTX is pinned on and is annoying to remove. Yeah, I mean, I also dislike when the VTX is soldered on. I mean, if you're just getting started as a newbie, you probably don't want to be depinning that thing. You're just going to do your best with the VTX that's on there. Excuse me. This is not the Tiny Hawk 2 Is it the Tiny Hawk 2 Freestyle? Oh, it is. Get the Tiny sled for the Tiny Hawk 2 Freestyle. Good idea. John Larson, thanks for a $5 super chat. Are you running different rates and camera angle on your race build versus your freestyle? Different rates? Yes, definitely. I'm running the 533 rates with 0.35 expo because I like a little bit softer center. Camera angles is steeper on the race build as well. Closer to 40-45 degrees than the 30-ish degrees that I use for freestyle. What's an ideal KV for 6S? Asks Zorian Passmore. I mean, that depends on what you're trying to do. A lot of racers prefer to be up closer to 1900 or even 2100 KV. Freestyle pilots tend to prefer a little lower KV to give a little less power and a little more flight time. But there are definitely exceptions. Some freestyle pilots like a higher KV motor because they want that additional top-end power for punchy moves. So... I know people, Aerospace Inc. says, I think the VTX is part of the board on the Tiny Hawk 2 Freestyle. I think we're confusing the Tiny Hawk 2 with the Tiny Hawk 2 Freestyle. I know the Tiny Hawk 2 Freestyle has that tiny sled that lets you add a Crossfire and a TBS Unified Nano, so I know it can be done. Is there any downside to using analog on the DJI goggles versus buying a second set of goggles for analog? Yeah, Caddx FPV. The DJI goggles as analog goggles have a tiny bit more latency, but many people feel that it's acceptable. If you're concerned about having the lowest possible latency, definitely you wouldn't want to use the DJI goggles for your analog. The other thing is that like I still use these days I've been using the Orcas for analog goggles. Well, why don't I just use my DJI goggles? The Orcas are lighter and smaller, and they fit my face better. So if you have the budget to have a second set of awesome analog goggles, you should. But, I mean, most people don't have that budget. Most people struggle to spend $550 on the DJI goggles. To then spend another $500 on a set of analog goggles would be beyond most people's means. But if it's within your means, then that's what I like to do. I'm very fortunate to have more goggles than I know what to do with because I'm a reviewer. Max Daly, thank you for a $5 super chat. I just broke the USB off of my GEP-RC rocket. I'm wanting to upgrade to a chip that can use RPM filtering anyway. What recommendations do you have for a flight controller and ESC all-in-one? I have a video that's going to come out soon, maybe tomorrow, where I put the Flywoo Goku F745 all-in-one in my tiny trainer. I did that because I've killed several of the Beta FPV toothpick all-in-ones, and I was just like, what else is out there? Somebody on my YouTube video recommended the Flywoo Goku all-in-one, and I was like, okay, let's just give this a go. Now, I can't really vouch for it, but I'm giving it a try. GEP-RC, of course, has their own all-in-one toothpick that comes in the GEP-RC, their 4-inch, whatever the name of that thing is. So you certainly could go that direction. Ron, thank you for a $10 super chat. Ron is building a new drone with the Matek F722 SE and is trying to put SpeedyBee Bluetooth on UART 6, but SpeedyBee makes me change PinIO box, and I lose my user 1 and user 2 options. Can they work together? They can work together, Ron. I'm pretty sure that you can have up to 3 user modes, maybe more, maybe 4. But I'm pretty sure you can have 3. What's happening is that you are pasting in the PinIO box, the generic PinIO box, and it's losing the user 1 and user 2 options. What you need to do is you need to understand how the PinIO box works, and then you can have all 3 user modes. So let's see if we can take a look. So there's Resource PinIO, which creates the user modes. And then there's PinIO box. What does PinIO box do? It assigns the ID of the boxes. It has its own capability of monitoring the activation of the boxes. I think that's how you assign the aux modes. 40 through 43 are user-defined boxes as user 1 through user 4. Yes, okay. So what should happen? Let's try this. I'm going to just wing this. 1 second. So thank you, Dominic Clifton. If anybody would know, you would. So PinIO box, permanent IDs 40 through 43 are user-defined boxes. Okay, so what's the PinIO box for the SpeedyBee? How do they tell you to set it up? Let's see if we can figure this out. This is interesting. So they want you to set PinIO config 129.111. What does that mean? PinIO underscore config. 8-bit values. Okay. Output push-pull for pin IO 1, 3, and 4. Inverted output push-pull for pin IO 2. This is more complicated than I thought. Pin IO box. See, this is what's screwing you up, isn't it? 0, 255, 255, 255. What is that? How do we interpret that? What is 255 as a pin IO box? Box ID none. I see. So that's where you're erasing your pin IO box. I got it. Okay. Pin IO config is for the 4 pin IOs, and they're setting pin IO number 1 to 129, and the others are 111, which I'm going to guess is just disabled. So I think here's what you would need to do. I think you would need to do hold on. I'm thinking. We're going to get this. I think what you would need to do is do your pin IO config as shown. Hello? I think what you would need to do is do your pin IO config as shown. And what that's done is that has set the first pin IO slot to be however it needs to be to turn that MSP on and off when you arm and disarm, because I think that's what that's doing. Dominic Clifton is showing the answers there in the chat. The real answers. And then what you're going to do is you're going to do pin IO box, and box number 1 is going to be a 0. What is that? Let's look at that. Box number 1 is going to be a 0. What is box 0? Arm. Ah, got it. Bingo. So what this is doing is it's saying slot number 1 is going to be tied to arming. But then what you're going to do is you're going to do 40, 41, and 42, which are your user modes. Yes, this is the answer. Set pin IO box equals 0. That's going to turn that Bluetooth adapter on and off when you arm and disarm. And then you're going to do 40, 41, 42, which is going to be user mode 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to save. And then, of course, you need to do your resource mapping, which I'm not going to do the resource mapping. Right? I'm not going to do that because that's its own thing. But if I save that, I should have all 3 of my user modes. So, Ron, I don't know if we've actually helped you. But, yeah, here's my user modes 1, 2, and 3. Basically, the way this works, though, is that you've got 4 pin IO slots. And this is why your user modes are getting erased. Because these 255s in slots 2, 3, and 4, that's erasing them. What you want to do is leave slot number 1 alone, because that's your Bluetooth setup. And then change slots 2, 3, and 4 to be your user modes. Ron says the Maytech has pin IO config equals 1111. See, I don't like that, Ron. By doing pin IO config 1111, that doesn't matter, I guess. And then they've got pin IO box 4041 255. That's just user 1 and user 2. So, Ron, what I think you're going to want to do, here's what I think you're going to want to do, Ron, to keep your current configuration the way it is. And then we're going to move on because I know the live stream is probably not loving this. Ron, I think what you're going to do is you're going to do set pin IO config equals 129. And that's going to make slot 4 be 129, which is what's needed for the SpeedyB adapter. And then you're going to do set pin IO box equals 40, 41. That's your 2 user modes that Maytech gives you. 255, which is disabled, and then whatever they 0, which is arming. That's for your Bluetooth. That's what you need, Ron, right there. That's it. That's what you need, man. I believe this is what you need. And that's going to put your your MSP connection, and then what you need to do is resource user 4 equals wherever your SpeedyB adapter is assigned. You got it? Did we help you? Let's move. I hope so. That was really fun. I actually have not dug deep into the PinIO stuff, so that was a really fun opportunity for me to learn about it and taking you along with me, whether you like it or not. Alrighty. Nestor Zaharopoulos, thanks for a $5 super chat. What are the benefits of GPS on a drone? I don't really care for return to home. Okay, that's the benefit. The other big benefit, Nestor, frankly, return to home on Betaflight doesn't really work that great. It works okay. It's better than nothing, but it's not that great. Dominic Clifton, thank you. Resource PinIO 4, not user 4. Thank you, Dominic. Yes, resource PinIO 4. That's my bad. The other use for GPS on a drone is speed measurement. A lot of people think that GPS is not super accurate for position. Like GPS is position accurate to within maybe, a few, maybe 10 meters, maybe a few meters, depending on. And they're like, well, how can the speed be accurate if the position isn't accurate? And it turns out that the speed measurement of GPS is usually down to 0.05 meter per second. It's super accurate. And the answer is because it's measuring Doppler shift, not position over time. But like the Guinness Book of World Records, if you're going to do a speed run, GPS is more accepted than a radar gun. Because a radar gun, you could like jerk the gun or you could have a parallax effect, but a GPS is pretty much going to be accurate. So those are the things GPS is useful for. GPS home direction is useful for guiding me back home when flying in the dense forest, says Chibi Kaiju. Ooh, Super Han says, Bardwell, you'd have as many groupies as Mr. Steele if you went deep on PinIO more often. Hey, baby. How many user modes have you got? You want me to invert your GPIO? I can do it. Maybe I'm going to reassign a couple of your resources. Lion's Mane says, my Meteor 60. Thank you, Lion's Mane, for not spamming. Are you spamming? You are spamming. I just haven't seen it until now. Well, anyway. Lion's Mane, my Meteor 65 broke 2 days after I got it mid-hover. Sucks to be you. That sucks. Just stop sending video. First drone and the flight controller sold out. What can I do? I mean, the first freaking thing I would do is try to get whoever sold it to me to give me another one. And they'll probably say, no, you crashed it. It's not our fault. And maybe they're right. But it's at least worth a try. Frankly, on the micros, like a Meteor 65, I mean, Ciati, is there another good flight controller he could put in there that would work with his existing frame and motors? What do you recommend, Ciati? That's the thing about those. Like, sometimes they're bulletproof, and then sometimes they die for no reason, and it's a total crapshoot. It sucks. Nope, says Ciati. He does not have any recommendation. The Meteor 65 has a separate VTX. Oh, yeah. Nothing is in stock. It's maddening. There you go. Just put in a back order and cross your fingers, or buy a different Tiny Whoop, or just buy another. Can you get another Mobula 65 and just use it for spares? Yeah, I don't know. Oh, it's 9:53. We're 7 minutes from the end of the stream. Aaron Ciati is going to be streaming at 10 over on his channel, and he's going to start posting that link for you guys. Hold Hope it's going well over there, Ciati. For those of you who are having fun streaming and don't want to quit, people say, Bardwell, why don't you stream for 3 or 4 hours? And I'm like, shut up. I don't want to take all the fun. Ciati's going to stream for another couple hours. Polk Photography says, I just installed my Vista. The light's red and it won't bind. What do you do? Polk Photography, the light on the Vista should go green after maybe within 30 seconds of power up. It turns on, it's red, and then it goes green. If it stays red, this is going to sound dumb. Are you powering it from 5 volts? If you power the Vista from 5 volts, it'll power up, but it won't work, and it'll stay red. And that's like an oddly specific accusation, but I have seen more than one person do this by accident. The thing is, the Vista and the air unit are relatively robust, and so usually if they're just sort of broke and don't work, especially right out of the box, chances are that you've done something wrong with it. What's the best way to set the antennas on a Crossfire dual diversity? Asks Crazy Sam. 90 degrees to each other. That's the answer. The specific way to put them 90 degrees could matter under some circumstances, especially if you're on like a flying wing, where it's on a flying wing, it's generally going to be sort of mostly flat. And in that case, you would probably want to have them like so. A lot of people on quadcopters put them under the rear arms. So they're 90 degrees to each other, but they're flat on a plane. There are some reasons why that's not as good an idea, but it does make it easier to mount. So, what causes the quad to pitch forward when throttling up? Sean Cross, that's a common tuning issue with Betaflight that can be difficult to fix. Some people would say that having your center of gravity off is contributes to it, and that's true. Definitely try and center up your CG, but it's a tuning issue in Betaflight. Air mode, anti-gravity helps mitigate it somewhat. Nestor Zaharopoulos, my FPV crate is not still available today. No, I'm sorry. I lied. I'm sorry. 5/25. I think its cutoff date is May 25th. It's only the 24th. So I believe it is still available. It's not the sub 250 one. It's just the regular one. Where can I view Bardwell's FPV box? Well, you can't until people receive them and they start doing unboxings. Polk Photography says his Vista is on 9 volts. If you don't get the green LED after about 30 seconds on 9 volts, by the way, it doesn't have to be bound. That LED should go green. Oh, Soundwave says FPV crate is sold out. Never mind. The cutoff date hasn't been reached, but apparently they're sold out. Darn. Oh, well, that's good that it's sold out, I guess. If it's powered from 9 volts and it still doesn't go green, then I would try reflashing it. And if that doesn't work, then I would contact DJI support. It must be damaged. I don't know what else could do it. Not a lot. All right. Yeah, apparently the 6S versus 4S, that's dumb. I wish they did that differently on the website. When you sign up for FPV Crate, you pick either a 6S or a 4S as your preference. But in this case, there's nothing, there's no motors in the box, so it doesn't matter which you pick. But the problem is that they should know whether the box, you should be able, the 6S shouldn't be out of stock because there's no 6S or 4S. And so in order to buy this month's box, you had to pick 4S because I don't know how they did it. But they should let you buy as many, I guess they need to know that this month there's no motors in the box, and so you just buy 6S or 4S and it pulls from the same pool. But then in future months, if there are motors, they may, anyway, I don't know. But yeah, if you signed up for 4S, then you have to be careful, because next month, if you wanted 6S motors, you're going to get the wrong ones if you sign up for the subscription. Polk Photography, thanks for a $10 super chat. All right, folks, we're coming to the end of the stream. I will see you guys tomorrow at 6 p.m. for the FPV news with JB and It's Blunty. We'll be talking about all the news in FPV, things that have happened in the past week. In the meantime, check out Aaron Ciotti, who is going to be streaming after me, and he's going to start posting his link. Thank you guys for coming out, and I will see you tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week. Happy flying, y'all.